The clock on your nightstand says 3:17 a.m., and you're just lying there, staring at the ceiling like it owes you answers. And here you are, scrolling through your phone at 3:19 a.m. like Google is going to preach you a sermon and give you a sign. You've read 5 articles titled, "How to Know God's Will for Your Life." You've watched 3 YouTube videos from pastors who seem very confident and very well rested. You've texted your most spiritual friend, the one who always says, "Just pray about it," like you haven't been doing exactly that for months. But the peace hasn't come. That's the part that scares you the most. You've prayed. You've fasted. You've journaled. You've done everything right, checked every box on the good Christian checklist, and still, nothing. Just silence. Just the hum of the refrigerator downstairs and the sound of your own breathing and this heavy, aching uncertainty that sits on your chest like a weight you can't name. Let me tell you something real. Something I learned the hard way, not from a theology degree but from a season of my life when I thought God had ghosted me completely. I was waiting on a job. Not just any job, the job. The one I'd prayed for, prepared for, positioned myself for. I'd networked. I'd interviewed. I'd sent the thank you emails with just the right balance of professional and personable. And when the rejection email hit my inbox at 2:43 p.m. on a Thursday, I felt something crack inside me. Not just disappointment. Something deeper. Something that whispered, "See? Even God doesn't think you're enough." I sat in my car in the parking lot of a coffee shop for 45 minutes, holding a cup that had gone cold, and I said out loud, just to the emptiness, "Where are you in this? Because I can't find you anywhere." That's the moment this message is for. Not the polished, Instagram-worthy faith. The 3 a.m., cold coffee, parking lot faith. The faith that's running on fumes and still showing up. Here's the first thing I need you to hear, and I need you to let it land somewhere deep: your confusion is not a sign of weak faith. I know we've been taught, somewhere along the way, by someone well-meaning, that if we just had enough faith, we'd have clarity. That doubt is the enemy. That uncertainty means you're doing something wrong. That's spiritual gaslighting, and it's not in the Bible. Think about it. If clarity were the proof of faith, then why did Jesus sweat blood in Gethsemane? Why did he ask the Father if there was another way? That wasn't a lack of trust, that was the fullness of humanity, laid bare before God. And if the Son of God can say, "If it's possible, let this cup pass," then you can say, "I don't know what to do," without feeling like a spiritual failure. Sometimes God allows uncertainty not because He's abandoned you, but because He's trying to break your addiction to your own wisdom. We're all control addicts, every one of us. We want the 5-year plan, the clear sign, the open door with a neon arrow pointing to it. But what if the fog isn't a punishment? What if it's an invitation? What if God is gently prying your fingers off the steering wheel because you were never meant to drive this thing alone? I remember sitting in that parking lot, cold coffee in hand, and hearing, not audibly, but in that way the Spirit speaks beneath the noise, a quiet thought: this door closing isn't rejection. It's protection. I didn't believe it at first. I argued with it. I had a whole list of reasons why that job was perfect, why I was ready, why the timing made sense. But God wasn't giving me an explanation. He was giving me a choice: keep clinging to my definition of good, or trust that His definition might be different, and better. Memorable truth: write this down or screenshot it or tattoo it on your brain. Sometimes a closed door isn't rejection, it's redirection wrapped in mercy you can't recognize yet. So here you are. 3:22 a.m. now. The world is still asleep. No emails are coming in. No texts demanding your attention. No one performing their curated life on social media. It's just you and the silence and the weight of a decision that feels too heavy to carry. Before you do anything else, before you open that laptop, before you make that call, before you draft that message, I want you to do something countercultural. Take a sip of that cold coffee if it's still there. Put your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. And admit something to yourself that you've been too afraid to say out loud. I'm tired. I'm scared. And I don't know what to do. Say it. Not as a prayer yet. Just as honesty. Because God can work with honesty. What He can't work with is the performance of faith, the pretending, the I'm fine when your soul is screaming. The silence you're feeling right now, that unbearable quiet where you're begging for a sign and getting nothing, it doesn't mean God is absent. It doesn't mean He's disappointed. It doesn't mean you've missed your chance or failed some cosmic test. What if the silence is actually sacred space? What if God isn't talking because He's already spoken, and now He's waiting for you to stop strategizing long enough to trust? I know that sounds too simple. I know your brain is already firing back with all the reasons why your situation is different, more complicated, more urgent. I've been there. I've argued with God in the middle of the night too. But here's what I'm learning, slowly and painfully: the peace that surpasses understanding doesn't come from understanding. It comes from surrender. So let me leave you with a question as we pause here. Not a rhetorical one, a real one that I want you to sit with. You're at a crossroads. You've got a decision to make when the sun comes up. You've prayed, you've searched, you've asked every wise person in your life. And still, the clarity hasn't come. But how can we truly trust when every sign points the other way? I've been at that crossroads before, and I chose wrong. It was 4 years ago. I had two paths in front of me, and honestly, only one of them looked like it was actually moving. The other one felt like standing still. So I grabbed the moving one. I convinced myself it was faith. Bold action. Stepping out of the boat. But if I'm being honest, and I'm trying to be honest now, it wasn't faith. It was fear dressed up in spiritual language. Fear of being left behind. Fear of missing my moment. Fear that if I didn't say yes to this opportunity, God might not send another one. So I said yes. Fast. No peace. Just urgency. And for about 3 months, it looked like the right call. The numbers made sense. People congratulated me. I posted about it online and got all the fire emojis and "so proud of you" comments that make you feel like you're walking in divine favor. Here's the thing nobody tells you about a decision made in panic: the consequences don't always show up immediately. Sometimes they marinate. Sometimes they wait until you're too deep to back out gracefully. For me, it took about 8 months before the whole thing collapsed. The partnership I'd rushed into. The person I'd trusted without really doing the hard work of discernment. They walked away, and they took a significant amount of money with them. I'm not talking about a minor financial inconvenience. Mirror moment. Right here. I want you to pause and really hear this. Maybe you're not facing financial ruin, but you're carrying a scar from a decision you'd undo in a heartbeat if you could. That relationship you rushed into because you were tired of being alone. That job you took because the title sounded right. That ministry role you said yes to because you didn't want to disappoint anyone. And now you're living with the aftermath, and there's this quiet voice in the back of your mind that whispers, if God really loved you, He would have stopped you. I've whispered that. More than once. Lying in bed at 3:22 a.m., replaying every red flag I ignored, every check in my spirit I overruled, every wise person I avoided because I knew they'd tell me to slow down. I remember actually saying out loud, and I mean this literally, I spoke it into the darkness of my bedroom, God, why didn't you stop me? You're sovereign. You could have closed that door. You could have made it obvious. Why did you let me walk into this? Silence. Not the peaceful kind. The heavy kind. And then, slowly, over weeks and months of processing, a different question started to form. Not, why didn't you stop me, but, what were you trying to teach me that I was too busy to learn? See, here's where I need to introduce something that changed everything for me. Discernment, real, biblical discernment, isn't about choosing between right and wrong. That's actually the easy part. Most of us know not to rob a bank or lie under oath. The hard part, the part that keeps you up at night, is choosing between good and best. Between something that could work and something that will bear lasting fruit. Between an open door and the right door. Not every opportunity that looks like a blessing is actually from God. Read that again. Let it sink in. Because I had to learn it the hard way, and I don't want you to. A few years ago, I said yes to a promotion that seemed perfect, more influence, more recognition, everything I thought I wanted. But in taking that good thing, I lost the quiet evenings with my family and the space to write the book God had been nudging me to start. The promotion wasn't bad, but it wasn't God's best for that season. Just because someone else is thriving in that lane doesn't mean it's your lane. And just because you're afraid of missing out doesn't mean God is asking you to move. Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6, and I'm going to say this carefully because I want you to hear the heart of it, not just the words. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. I used to read that like a formula. Step 1, trust. Step 2, don't lean. Step 3, get direction. But that's not what it says. It's not a transaction. It's an invitation. Don't lean on your own understanding. Do you know how offensive that was to me? I'm a planner. I make spreadsheets. I weigh pros and cons. I consult people. My understanding is my comfort zone. And God was gently, persistently, prying my fingers off of it. The Hebrew word for trust in that passage is batach. It means to attach yourself to something, to feel so secure that you can let your weight fall completely. Like leaning back into a chair you know will hold you. Not tensing up. Not keeping one foot on the floor just in case. Full weight. Full surrender. I wasn't doing that. I was praying in panic. There's a difference between praying in surrender and praying in desperation. Desperation grabs. Surrender opens its hands. Desperation says, God, bless my plan. Surrender says, God, let your plan become mine, even if it costs me mine. So I started practicing something that felt completely unnatural. I started waiting in silence. Not filling the quiet with more prayers, more requests, more explanations of why my timeline made sense. Just sitting. Just listening. And I'm not going to lie to you and say it was peaceful at first. It wasn't. It was agonizing. My brain would scream at me to do something, anything. Meanwhile, friends were posting their wins online. People younger than me were launching things and succeeding. And I'm sitting in my living room with nothing but silence and the uncomfortable feeling that I was being left behind. That's when the real battle started. Not the battle for a decision, the battle for my trust. I remember one night specifically. I'd been scrolling through social media, always a bad idea when you're in a waiting season, and I saw 3 different people announcing things I wanted. Promotions. Opportunities. Breakthroughs. And this thought slithered into my mind, quiet and poisonous, see? God is good to them. What about you? Maybe He's not as good as you thought. I let that thought sit there for about 10 seconds. That night, after I let that poisonous thought sit for 10 seconds, I did something different. I didn't argue with it. I didn't try to out-theologize my own doubt. And I started writing. Not a prayer. Not a declaration. Just a list. Every option I was spinning in my head. Every door I was afraid to walk through. Every door I was afraid to miss. Every scenario I had mapped out, color-coded, and stress-tested in my imagination at 2 a.m. When I finished, the list was embarrassingly long. 7 different paths. 7 different futures I was trying to control. And I just stared at it, this messy scribble on the back of a receipt that represented months of mental gymnastics, and I realized something that broke me open. I wasn't asking God for wisdom. I was asking God to rubber stamp my anxiety. I wanted Him to pick from my list. I wanted Him to validate my research. I wasn't surrendered, I was managing God like a consultant I hired to approve my strategy. So I did the only thing left to do. I put the paper down, and I said out loud, "Lord, I don't know. But you know. And I choose to trust you, even in the dark. Even without the blueprint. Even if your answer is none of the above." There's a verse that became my lifeline in that season, and I'm going to share it carefully because I want you to catch every word. James chapter 1, verse 5 tells us that if anyone lacks wisdom, they should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to them. Did you hear that? Without finding fault. He doesn't roll his eyes at your confusion. He doesn't shame you for not having it figured out. He gives wisdom generously, liberally, like someone pouring water into a dry cup until it overflows. But here's the part one missed for years: God's wisdom isn't a formula. It's a relationship. But that's not how He works. He doesn't just want to give you the answer. He wants to walk with you through the question. He wants you to know His voice, not just His instructions. And that's where the surrender happened. Not in a dramatic moment of clarity. Not in a vision or a dream or a sign in the sky. It happened in a quiet, unglamorous decision to stop gripping my plans so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I had calluses on my soul from holding on so hard. And God was asking me, gently, persistently, lovingly, to open my hands. So here's my question for you. Look at your hands right now. Not metaphorically. Actually look at them. Those hands that have been gripping, planning, stressing, holding it all together. Those hands that are tired from carrying the weight of decisions that were never yours to carry alone. What if today, right now, you opened them? What if you stopped asking God to bless your plan and instead asked Him to replace your plan with His? Here's what I want you to do this morning. Get a piece of paper. Doesn't have to be fancy, a sticky note, a napkin, the back of an envelope. Write down the decision that's been keeping you up at night. The crossroads. The thing you've been spinning in your mind until you're dizzy. And then, underneath it, write these words: Lord, I place this in your hands. I choose trust over control. I receive your wisdom, and I receive your peace while I wait. Don't pray for the answer. Not yet. Pray for the peace to wait for the answer. Pray for the stillness to hear His voice when He speaks. Because He will speak. He promised He would. And God doesn't break His promises. Heavenly Father, I come before you right now, not as someone who has it all together, but as someone who needs you desperately. Lord, I bring you my confusion. I bring you my fear of missing out. I bring you the weight of decisions that feel too heavy for my shoulders. I admit that I've been trying to figure it out on my own, and I'm tired. I'm so tired. So I surrender. I lay my plans at your feet. I lay my timelines at your feet. I lay my need to control the outcome at your feet. Give me holy restraint, Lord, the strength to wait when everything in me wants to rush. Give me discernment to know the difference between an open door and the right door. And give me courage to walk in the pace of grace, not the panic of fear. I declare that I am not led by confusion. I am led by your Spirit. I am not driven by anxiety. I am anchored in your peace. I am not defined by my uncertainty. I am defined by your faithfulness. I receive your wisdom. I receive your patience. I receive your courage. And I trust that you are ordering my steps, even when I can't see the path. I declare today that I will not be led by confusion, because my shepherd knows the way. I declare that God is aligning my steps, even in the waiting, even in the silence, even in the moments that feel like nothing is happening. I declare that I am receiving supernatural wisdom, supernatural patience, and supernatural courage to walk through the doors He opens and to walk away from the ones He closes. I am not afraid of missing out, because my Father withholds no good thing from those who walk uprightly. I am not panicked by the timelines of others, because my story is written by a God who is never late. And in that quiet moment of surrender, when my heart stopped racing and my grip on control loosened, the Lord gently reminded me, He is never early, never late, but always perfectly on time. Here's the truth I want you to carry with you today. When you cannot find the path forward, trust the one who is the way. His peace doesn't come from silencing every storm, it settles deep when you realize His presence anchors you in the middle of it. The waves may still crash against your hopes. The wind may still howl through your unanswered questions. The confusion may not dissolve in a single breath. But you are not adrift in that boat, gripping the sides alone. He is right there with you, steady and unshaken. And that changes everything. May the Lord bless you with clarity when the fog rolls in thick and disorienting. May He bless you with stillness when the noise is loud. May He bless you with holy restraint when your instincts scream at you to move. And may He bless you with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you don't have to have it all figured out, because you are following the one who does. Take a moment right now. Place your hand gently over your heart, breathe in slowly, and whisper to the Lord the one fear you've been too afraid to speak aloud.